Hi, I'm Sarah from sarahborgstead.com, and today we're talking about sleep. How can I get my kids to sleep through the night? It's such an issue that I see so many times. Well, we have had 35 foster children over the course of 6 years, and now we're parenting our 5 children. And surprisingly, despite the fact that we've had so many children and a significant number of children with special needs, behavior needs, medical needs, many different issues, we've actually had very few issues with sleep. Almost all of our kids have slept through the night relatively quickly and then sleep through the night on mostly regular basis in a really healthy way. To a certain extent, I think we somewhat lucked out on this because of just our personalities and the way that we parent, but I've discovered some things that are really helpful. So let's talk about those. Okay, parenting expert Nancy Thomas talks about no one plays the Coke machine, but everybody loves to play the slot machines in Vegas. Why is this? Well, it's for that element of chance. So, your kids know that sometimes they can get you to do certain things at bedtime, and so they will play that. Now, you've heard the advice over and over that you need to have a bedtime routine. And you might be thinking right now, oh, I've heard this 100 times before. We have our bedtime routine. Well, I'm going to tell you something that you probably don't want to hear, but this is the truth. I would say to you, no, you probably really don't. You probably have somewhat of a bedtime routine, and then something comes along and this happens or that happens, and then you don't do it anymore. Or you've tried one for a while and then it didn't work, you feel like, and so you cut this out or that out or something like that. Or let's say bath time. Maybe you say bath time is in your bedtime routine. Do you really give your kids a bath every night? There's no way I give my kids a bath every night. Or maybe you have 8 different steps in your bedtime routine. That's way too complicated. You need an extremely simple, very easy, short bedtime routine that you do with your kids every night. And you need to stick to it. That's really all there is to it. But you need to make sure that that routine you're doing on a regular basis. Now, does that mean that there can't be exceptions? No, of course not. That doesn't mean that if you say your bedtime is 8 o'clock, that you can't ever go out and you have to be home at 8 o'clock. No. The difference is you are the parent. And so you are not going to be ruled by your kids making the decisions, whining and crying and that changing things. You are making the decision. So if something's going to change in the bedtime routine, you're going to use I language and say, okay, things are going to change with tonight's bedtime because I am making the decision that this is going to be different, not because the kid is whining and crying and causing things to be different. So that's a huge difference. The bedtime routine is going to stay the same. It's going to be extremely simple. And the only time it's going to change is if you make the decision as the parent that it's going to change. So a very simple bedtime routine. Along with that, you want a very simple room. You want their bedroom to be really boring. We've taken everything out of our younger kids' rooms. Our younger two kids have some fairly significant special needs, and so we've taken everything out of their room to make it very simple, to keep it easy for them to go to bed at night. And their toys are somewhere else in the house. You also need to be boring at bedtime. You need to be boring. I think what so often happens in our busy world is that that's the time that we finally slow down and we start to connect with our kids. And we might be feeling guilty, and so when they say, read me another book, we say, okay, just one more book, and then that becomes another book and another book and another book, and our kids learn this is a time when I can get mom and dad's attention, and if I whine and cry, it works. They're doing it because it works. Or remember that Vegas slot machine, at least sometimes it works. Or once in a while it's worked. Even 1 out of 100, sometime at some point in time, it worked. And we need to teach our kids that it doesn't work. Now, I will tell you that I am extremely boring at bedtime. Now, this is where I say I kind of lucked into it because my husband's a pastor and he's often gone in the evenings, or he especially was often gone when my kids were younger. And by 8 o'clock at night, I am not a good mom anymore. I am exhausted. And so I have a really boring bedtime routine for my kids. I don't do a bunch of books. I don't sit on their bed and talk to them. I don't do long prayers. I'm wiped out and done parenting by 8 o'clock at night. So we read at other times during the day. We share highs and lows at the dinner table. We have our devotions at that time. I talk to my kids. When they come home from school is one of the big times that I talk to them. So I hereby give you permission to have a really boring bedtime. And maybe that's just not your big time that you connect with your kids. And that's totally okay. And actually, I would encourage you, if you do want to make bedtime the time that you connect with your kids, I would do it downstairs on the couch and not in their bed. Make bed a place where they are going to go to sleep, not where they are going to beg you to stay with them for connection time. Brian Post, who is another parenting expert at the Post Institute, and I have links for all of these on my website if you go to some of my parenting blogs. He talks about if you connect with your kids for 10 minutes intentionally 3 times a day, you will see almost all of their behaviors resolve. And if you have a lot of kids or you're really busy, maybe you can't even do 3 times a day, start with once a day, or start with 3 minutes, or start with 5 minutes, but be intentional about it in the morning, at night, and when they first come home from school. And that is so true. We're so busy and we get so wrapped up in things. And if bedtime is when you are finally slowing down and connecting with your kids, no wonder they're whining and crying for more time, or maybe you're feeling guilty and getting wrapped up in that with them. So make bedtime really boring and you will see a significant change. So these are my suggestions for you. Number 1, don't let your kids play the Coke machine or the Vegas slot machine with you. You need to be really consistent, not let their crying and begging work. Number 2 is develop a routine that is consistent and short and very, very simple. It should just have 3 or 4 things in it. And number 3 is be boring. Don't make bedtime the time that you connect with your kids. So check again at sarahborgstead.com for more advice and tips on parenting. And this was sleeping, how to get lots of sleep when you have kids. Thanks a lot.